Hey, Ashley.
Hey, Stacy, how you doing?
I'm good. What'd you learn today?
I learned today that McDonald's once sold bubblegum flavored broccoli.
Oh my God, that sounds horrendous.
Say that 5 times fast. Yeah, they wanted to make kids be able to eat. They wanted kids to have more broccoli, and when you look at it, it's like the advertising campaign was bright pink.
That sounds disgusting and full of artificial flavors and coloring. So to me, that seems almost counterintuitive in a way.
Maybe. Have you ever had a grapple?
No.
It's a grape infused apple.
How's
Where
that
did
going?
I don't know. I think that again is artificial flavors and coloring. You don't you can just eat a grape.
You could, and an apple. You could take a bite of a grape, bite of an apple, and then you've got a grapple. To me, that, yeah.
Yeah,
Although I wouldn't suggest doing chewing gum and broccoli at the same time. That sounds disgusting.
it does sound disgusting, but you never know. If we didn't try things, we would not know that bananas and cheese went together. And that's a hill I'll die on.
But do they?
Yeah, I air fried bananas and cheese on a live stream. It was great. Loved it. You wouldn't try it? You're not in? You're not okay. All right. Stacy's not in. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Tango Alpha Lima podcast.
This is the Tango Alpha Lima podcast.
They call me crazy cause I'm facing all my giants. They try to scare me into thinking I can fight it. They tell me I should never even think of trying. But that's just me, I'm gonna live out in defiance.
Welcome, Alphas. I'm so excited because our guest today is Nick Palmisciano, founder of Ranger Up, the first military lifestyle brand, and CEO of Diesel Jack Media. The Diesel Jack team has been creating some membership marketing ads for the American Legion, and I think one of those ads has inspired Stacy's Troll Patrol. Can you verify that?
Absolutely. It just so happens that I watched the ad. It was tremendous, and I couldn't help but clicking on the many comments that had began to accumulate underneath. And so while I was reading through the comments, one of the threads really had me stopped, and I almost spent my coffee out. So it goes something like this. Brian T-Rex Mills posts, I'm a 42-year American Legion member, and it's a great organization. Quite innocuous, really. But Lee Hayes comments underneath, I'm a veteran, can I join? And then another person joins in, Lori Francisco Pelton, who says, white male, ? You're welcome to join. Just look at their commercials. And then Lee Hayes said, got it. Thank you anyway. So what's my takeaway with this? Women veterans are waving off other women's from joining. Now that's probably based on their own experiences. Perhaps in the past, they felt dismissed, overlooked, marginalized, all the things that happen to many women veterans in our community. So to me, this just means that we alphas at large need to be better. We need to do better. We need to be inclusive. And that goes for everything within the posts, within our outreach, within talking with our communities, at VAs, at legions, etc. So I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, Lee, I'm sorry you had a negative experience, and I'm sure it's not just one, but please don't give up because we need you. The Legion needs you. And same for you, Lori. Please join, because myself, I can't do it alone. We need to get together. We need to shape the Legion to reflect everyone, and only change that happens is affected from the inside. So, Ashley, thoughts?
Yeah, to me, it's a little bit like it's not an exact correct parallel, but when people complain about when characters in movies have like a diverse, like you can see the diversity in there, and then they're like, well, why would you do that? Like, but then you see a kid that's like, oh, I had no idea that I could be that. Until I saw that on that Disney movie or that, and like, why wouldn't you want them to have that experience? We're so much stronger together. So yeah, absolutely join. and make the place better and make it to be something more that you want to be a part of and that you want to see. Agreed. All right, Alphas, we'll be back for OChat 30 with Nick Palmisciano right after the break.
When you think of WellCare Medicare Advantage, think of more, as in more of the benefits you want and more of the hands-on support you need. The American Legion and WellCare have teamed up to deliver that for our veterans. WellCare Medicare Advantage plans are designed to work alongside your VA benefits, giving you access to local health care options and more. Visit wellcareforveterans.com today or call 844-917-1165. Ohana Health Plan, a plan offered by WellCare Health Insurance of Arizona, Inc. New Mexico Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan, DSNP members. As a WellCare by Allwell DSNP member, you have coverage from both Medicare and Medicaid. Medicaid services are funded in part by the state of New Mexico. New Mexico Medicaid benefits may be limited to payment of Medicare premiums for some members.
All right, Alphas, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Today, our guest is Nick Palmisciano. Nick, welcome to the Tango Alpha Lima podcast. Thanks for being here. As a way of like introducing you, I just want to share your Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it today, bio, which I think says a lot about
I still call it Twitter. I still
call it, yeah, that's right.
I do.
Screw X. Take him down. I call it W.
X is just for DMX, like, and he's going to give it to you. Like that's what I think of. And so I don't want to think that every time I log into my social media platform.
I think that's fair. That's fair. I like that energy. Your bio says, Diesel Jack Media CEO, former Ranger Up guy, New York Times bestselling author, occasional filmmaker, aspiring stoic,
Yes.
VP at Save Our Allies, and / chaotic good. I think that's about you.
Yes, that is what I try to aspire to.
Yeah, I love it.
Hey, Nick. Welcome to the show, and thank you for your service. I'm Stacy. We haven't met yet.
Well, we did. We met right before this.
Well,
Are we pretending that we weren't just talking right before we started filming?
no, we can roll right with it.
Okay. I've never met this woman before. This is coming as a complete surprise to me. Stacy, it is so nice to meet you for the very first time just now.
We're old friends, everybody. We go back about 2 minutes, just so you know. But anyway, Nick, I have so many questions for you about your service, about your entrepreneurial prowess. But first, I want to address something that you're doing as a recent project. I sat down and watched the promo for Office Joe.
Mm-hmm.
I got to admit, I nearly peed my pants.
I'm glad you didn't.
Hilarious. Get the sense that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the main character may be loosely or literally kind of based on your own experiences. For the alphas listening, can you give us a little overview of what Office Joe is all about?
Yeah. So Office Joe is about a guy, he gets out of the infantry. He drives literally across the country just in time to start his new job as a designer at a boutique marketing firm. So there's some like loose things based on my life, but it's really more about like everybody has the same transition story, regardless of like what job they take on or whatever. And that's, they leave service and it's uncomfortable for a while and they have to kind of figure it out. So we do that in a hilarious way. And the cast of characters at the boutique marketing agency are as ridiculous as you can imagine. And Joe's trying to like figure out this world, and it's kind of like it's shot in the same style as like Parks and Rec or The Office. So it's that docu-comedy style. Yeah, I mean, I haven't done anything fun in a long time. So like Ranger Up, everything was always about fun. And then I spent the last 3 years of my life basically working on like the Afghanistan refugee problem. And, we did a ton of evacuations and, that is soul sucking work. And like, I'm incredibly proud of like the work we've done, but it's the further we get from August 2021, the less anyone wants to help. And so it's like, if you land one Afghan in the country, it's a huge victory. So I've had like 3 years of just grind, it's like I've got my Diesel Jack, which I love, but like the other part of my life has been completely focused on this very hard challenge. And I felt like the military community hasn't really had a win in a while. I was like, man, I want to do something fun. I bet people want to do something fun. And so I kind of threw this idea around of this show that's about transition. And, you know, everybody that I asked was like, I'm in, you know, including Ashley, who plays Barbara Shreveport, and she killed it. And so we ended up with like a really special show. I don't know where it's going to live yet. We're kind of figuring that out now, but Jared Taylor, Tim Kennedy, Vince Vargas, Ashley, you know, Austin, Mandatory Fun Day. Like, it's a great cast of characters, and it came out really funny. And the American Legion is the title sponsor, which I got to be honest, I was really surprised they said yes to, because, you know, I'm the same guy that made Range 15, which, you know, so.
They're going in a new direction. American Legion into the future. Heck yeah. I love it. You know, I'm a reporter on the show. And it was just the whole environment was super fun. I could have spent the whole month of December there. I remember being in the Benjamin Bunn's in it. If you want to look him up, he's Coach Bunny on Instagram, and he's Lucius. And you can see you've put out some of the promos ahead, so I'm not like spoiling anything.
No, you're not spoiling anything.
Some things. But I remember being in the hotel gym with him afterwards. Him and his wife are in there working out, and he's just picking up kettlebells, and he's just like, "Not today, ISIS!" Bam. I just love being around people with that kind of energy, you know. So I know that the show is going to be awesome. I can't wait. I can't wait for it to come out.
Looking forward to it. It was super fun, and hopefully we get to expand the universe with season 2, and we learn more about Barbara Shreveport and, you know, all the things she's into. So
yeah, she's into some weird stuff.
Weird.
She's a freak. See, you just a little sidebar. You're an aspiring stoic. Is that something that you're really into? Stoicism?
Yeah. So I know stoicism is like really cool right now, which is great. I hope people actually, you know, try to live up to it. My friend Ryan Holiday, I kind of credit for bringing stoicism back into the mainstream. He wrote a number of books, but the first one was The Obstacle is the Way. And I met Ryan when he was still helping Tucker Max with his books. So his books were I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell and Assholes Finish First. I know I said I wasn't going to swear, but that is the book title, so I don't think that counts. And he was like a #1 New York Times bestseller. He was a Duke guy. The COO of Ranger Up, when I was running that, was good friends with him from back in the day. And this is when he was like at the height of like essentially being an alcoholic, kind of a piece of crap human being. He was really weird. He was likable and like had character when he was sober, and when he got drunk, he was terrible. Well, all his books were about him being drunk. And I lived like one night with him where I was like, holy crap, all the stories are real. He really is like a ridiculous human being. But anyway, he had this like very smart, quiet assistant at the time, Ryan Holiday, who now is like, I don't know, I think he's like a 9-time New York Times bestselling author. And Ryan went from like hanging out with Tucker to working with Robert Greene on the 50th Law of Power after writing the 48 Laws of Power. Anyway, so Ryan just got hardcore into stoicism after that, and he kind of has like launched this resurgence. But for me, if you've ever been around an Italian family, it's like the whole family sits around like a big table and everyone kind of argues about different things. And so like my dad, my godfathers, like, you know, they'd be arguing like about Marcus Aurelius and meditations and whatnot. So as like a 10, 11-year-old, I tried to read Meditations, and I physically did it, but like absorbed nothing. You know what I mean? Like it didn't mean anything. So, but I wanted to like know what they knew. And then it just became a book that I kept reading because I wanted to learn more. And so I probably read it 2 or 3 times a year. And that was like my introduction to Stoicism. The reason I say aspiring Stoic is because I have a lot of emotion. And like stoicism is about like controlling that. I can't always do it. So I'm working.
I tamp things down. I mean, I'm sure it's gonna come out at some point, but I've always been like people call me a robot with feelings. But I really like the meditations. I like Marcus Aurelius. I like talking about stoicism. There's some weird quotes in meditations that kind of break it up a bit, but like there's some weird ones. If you just go through it and you'll just be like, why did he bring that up? Like but it was his journal.
It was his diary. It wasn't meant for other people. And then like, somebody found it and was like, hey, we should publish this. But I think that's what makes it cool is like, he wasn't bullshitting. He wasn't trying to make himself look good. He wasn't trying to, it was just like, here's how I feel and here's how I'm going to fix it. And, it was, so yeah. I read it a lot. I especially read it if things in my life are going terrible or if things in my life are going really, really good, because those are the two dangerous places. Like when everything's terrible, you have a tendency to skew like life is terrible. It's never going to be good. When things are really good, you're like, it's always going to be like this. Like both of those things are not true.
Yeah. You can't take it too far one way or too far the other. There's a part of the meditations where he talks about just how short, no matter, even if you live 100 years, your life is incredibly short in terms of the universe.
Blink of an eye.
Just teeny tiny, even if somebody dies when they're a baby or they live to be 100, you're in both cases, it's nothing. So you need to, look at the universe from that perspective, like in a sense, like what you do doesn't really matter. Go for it. Cause it doesn't
matter. That's a huge part of, I think, of being happy. Because I think most people, and I think this is a thing that affects a lot of veterans when they get out, is like you have this idea that you have to be a certain way, or that the life decisions that you make have to be acceptable to other people. And I think the whole idea of doing what you're supposed to do according to society makes a lot of people miserable. Like we're told, like we have to go and make money, we have to go and do this, we have to have a respectable job, we have to get these majors, we have to do, and you get shamed if you like make a different decision. And I experienced it when I started Ranger. I was working at a Fortune 100 company. I had just gotten an MBA from a good school, and I was doing all the right things. I was absolutely miserable. It was the least happy part of my life. And I started this hobby, making t-shirts, never thought it was going to be my job, really enjoyed it. The only time I enjoyed my life was when I was working on this hobby. And then like I made the decision. I was a 29-year-old kid making about $250,000 a year at this Fortune 100 gig. Wow. And my boss called me into the office and said, you're getting a promotion and your raise is going to be about $100,000. And I don't come from money. Like this is like huge. This is like, and I thought about it all weekend and I came in on Monday and I quit. And my reason was, it's so much money. Once I start making that, I'm never going to not be able to make that. So I'll be stuck. And I just didn't want to do it. Like I wasn't happy. And so I quit. I gave notice and, I think I stayed on for 3 more months because I was on this big project. I said, I'll leave whenever you want, but I'm done. And everybody in my life was like, you're crazy. Like you're giving up this thing and, whatever. I was like, yeah, but I'm miserable. Like I don't like, and it wasn't the company. The company was great. It just brought me no happiness. And so I jumped into this hobby, almost bankrupted myself, ended up getting divorced in the process. Like it was a rough, it was a rough period of time, but felt alive, felt fulfilled, and so like the beginning of Ranger Up, the real beginning of Ranger Up, I was a single dad with a 1 and a 3-year-old. And I was just trying to figure out how to make ends meet. I went from making $250,000 a year to paying myself $24,000 a year, which I don't know if you know, it's a significant difference. And yeah, at my worst moment, I was $57,000 in credit card debt, and I had $1,300 to my name. And yeah, it was rough.
Man.
You know?
So after I got out, I was trying to figure out what the hell I was going to do, and I started a small business and ended up like, I think, $86,000 in debt, because I was the idiot who started a business in 2008 when the economy crashed, because I didn't know any better. I didn't have a business degree.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that is right when I quit and started went full time. So we were right there together.
Only yours was a success story, but that leads me to a question. I'm only joking, but you were successful. That's not a joke, but all joking aside, you know, some of the greatest things that happen in our lives are the ones that like what was it, Garth Brooks said, sometimes the best are unanswered prayers. But you know, we all in our professional lives set these goals and ambitions, and sometimes when that stuff just nosedives, we take it really personally, we take it as a personal failure. But something ends up opening up where you just never expected it. Did you ever have that along the way, or was it like one after the other for you?
No, most of my life is failure. And that's like a really weird thing to explain to people. Because on social media, you know, we don't usually, I try very hard to talk about failure as much as possible. You know, the book that I wrote with Tim is really mostly about failure. Most of my life is failure. I just bounce back from failure instantly. Like it used to be very emotional. Like I had this great idea and it didn't work. My iterations are just so fast now. I get all, and even here, sometimes like people are like, man, you were all excited about this thing. And then like, we're not doing that thing anymore. And I was like, yeah, because the thing didn't work. So, you know, we're going to kill that. I thought I shut off my Slack. I apologize.
Oh, I hear it. Okay.
I am shutting it off again now. I'm a bad person. All right. I am signed out of Slack now. They should not be able to Slack me anymore. So, you know, when things don't work, you either like keep beating that thing to death, hoping it's going to work, or you just iterate and you change like what you're doing. And so, you know, I've had tons and tons of failures, to be honest, you know, and I don't talk about this too much, but even, you know, Ranger Up was very good to me and it was a success, and, you know, it was an 8-figure business. But when I sold it, you know, to this venture firm, their vision of where it was going to go was so different than mine that, you know, I kind of like I kept working at Ranger Up for about a year. And I was at like this low point again, where I was like, man, it's going so well, like financially, but like we're losing something in it. And, you know, I kind of talked it over with my dad, and he was just like, man, like, you're not happy. Like, what are you clinging on to? And it was weird because even though I knew better objectively, in my head, I had invested so much into making Ranger Up work that I started to think about myself as Ranger Up. Like Ranger Up is a reflection of me. You know, if Ranger Up fails, then I fail. That's me failing. But really, it was like, man, I sold the majority of this company. It's not my company anymore. Yeah, like I built it, but if I'm not enjoying what I'm doing anymore, and I don't feel like my input is as valued as it needs to be for me to be happy, well, I got to do something else. And so it was really weird. I went through this whole like mourning process that lasted about 6 months. And then I finally pulled the trigger and was like, you know, hey guys, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And, you know, and they were very gracious, and, it wasn't like but then, once I was gone, because the organization that bought Ranger Up is, they run everything out of Columbus, Ohio. Well, I was running an office in North Carolina. They basically were like, and rightfully so, I didn't even think about it, but they were like, hey, if you're gone, we're going to shut down the North Carolina office. Everybody's welcome to come work in Ohio, but
Oh, you have that pressure.
so then I was like, well, shit.
Yeah.
I like all these people. So then, I went home, I talked to my wife, and I came in and was like, all right, hey guys, I want to, I've got some good news and some bad news. And they were like, all right, what's the bad news? I was like, well, you're all going to get laid off at the end of the month. And they were like, well, that's not good. What's the good news? I said, well, the good news is I'm starting a company and I want to hire you all. And they were like, what's the company? I said, I don't know. I'm going to think about that over this weekend and I'll tell you on Monday. And that's how Dieseljack started. So, we started with 0 clients and $0 and a bunch of employees that needed to be paid. And about a year later, we were a 7-figure business. So, and then all of a sudden I was like, hey, I really like what I'm doing again. Like I'm helping people with their businesses, all the lessons that, I had to like bleed for with Ranger Up, like I can apply to other people. And I get to be creative again in a lot of different regions. And that's actually what led me to the American Legion. I tried to work with the American Legion for 3 years. 3 years trying to get the Legion to work with me, and they finally did. And now I get to see Holly once a week. It's really nice. It's really nice,
Best. Were there any new curveballs that came from starting Dieseljack Media as opposed to Ranger Up? Were there anything like, I didn't really expect that?
Yes, absolutely. You have to figure out what clients you can actually work with. Right? So the reason why most people hate marketing agencies is marketing agencies get so used to churn that they don't worry too much about customer service. They basically have a sales team and they have a thing that they do, and like they sell. They constantly have new people coming on. They do their thing. They don't deviate from that thing that they do. The customer either likes it or hates it. And then, the average person stays with a marketing agency for 1 to 2 years, and then they move on. So marketing agencies are like, I look at them for the most part, and there are good ones. So I'm not saying all, but for the most part, they don't really add value because they can't take the time to really get to know the client and scale their business. So they have to provide just like this thing. And so what happens when you get clients is if they do not align with you, it's very hard to work with them because our business model is very different. We only work with a handful of clients. We'll do video work for anybody. So like anybody can call us and say, like, hey, can you film this for me? Can you make this for me? We want to do a commercial. But in terms of like clients that we work with on a week-to-week basis, day-to-day basis, we only keep a handful. And my reason for that is I have to know their business completely. I have to know what they're doing. Our team has to know what they're doing. And we have to be integrated into their company, whether it's a nonprofit or a for-profit. Like we have to know everything about them and be able to add value. When you do that with somebody that doesn't operate like you, it's incredibly painful. So, you guys have all met the people that have to be negative no matter what. Yeah. I can't work with those people. If somebody's always unhappy, like we fire them as a client. It's just like, because marketing relationships only work when it's a win-win. And so like if you're constantly putting stuff out for somebody and it's good work and you're like, man, we killed it on this and it's getting results, and by any objective means this is good, and they're still unhappy, like I can't work with that person.
It destroys you creatively.
Yeah, you start hating them. And so the test that I always ask my team is, if they call you at 2 a.m. with a crisis, are you getting out of bed?
You care about them.
And if the answer is no, they cannot be a client, like a recurring client that you work with on a daily basis.
I'm a recurring client now, and I'm just very pleased that I can call you guys at 2 a.m.
Well, you can always call. Barbara Shreveport can always call.
Thank you.
But the different challenges are, so any entrepreneur. So Stacy, I'm sure you know this. Like, there's payroll is the scariest thing always. Second, being an entrepreneur is super easy until you're paying someone. Yeah. And so, the negative of Ranger Up was I had to carry millions of dollars in inventory, which is scary because you're on the hook for it. But the positive is anytime cash flow is short, you just have a sale. You're like, hey, we're going to have a sale. We're going to sell off stuff that isn't selling. You get a bunch of cash and like you kind of move on. With an agency, it's not like that. Like the cash is what you have. And so it's a scarier kind of business in terms of that. But on the flip side, you have no costs other than your personnel. So it's just about, managing that you have the right people to do a job, and that you're, ensuring that there's plenty of work. So different challenges, but every business has fundamentally the same problems. Like, what are your costs? What are your revenues? How hard is it to get new business? And, we prefer, and our model is we want to retain great clients, forever. That's our goal. And, but that means everybody has to have a very personal touch, which means you have to put a lot of time into your employees, their skills. You got to hire the best people. You got to take care of them. So, every business has a different challenge.
Who's that one client that you've been really striving for, aside from the American Legion, that you were like, really, really, really want to work with those folks?
I mean, it's usually more like if I like somebody and then I see that they have a problem that I can solve, so, with the Legion, it was like the Legion, wasn't acquiring members digitally in a meaningful way. And it's a great organization. Nobody my age that isn't a member knows what the Legion does. And some people, like, I was a member and I didn't really know what the Legion did until I started traveling the country and visiting posts and talking to members. And it was like, man, in some places, like in South Dakota, the Legion is like the heart of the entire town. Like, if the Legion goes away, like, there's nowhere to have dances. There's nowhere to have, post-football game celebrations. There's nowhere to vote. It's like the Legion is like the center of town, Never even occurred to me because I grew up in New England and now I live in, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, where there were Legions, and we went to them for events and stuff, but it wasn't like, you didn't think about it as, man, what would happen without the Legion? So it's super interesting as you travel the country to see how different and how important the Legion is in communities. But, all the clients that we have right now, we really like. And, in particular, I like working with military nonprofits. Nonprofits are notorious for not wanting to tell their story. There's a lot of pride in like, we're 99% of our funds go to the mission. But like, if the mission is only this big because you didn't tell anybody about your story, is that good? And, getting these people that do really good work to talk about the work they do, and then watching those organizations change meaningfully, I really enjoy, and American Legion, Student Veterans of America, and Warrior Rising are three that I've worked with for a long time.
Yeah, I love the guys over at Warrior Rising. That was another Office Joe. You do a lot of like wrestling stuff too, right? What about like
Yeah.
WWE? Would you take that client, or is that not the kind of?
No, I mean, like obviously, if the WWE, like a multi-billion-dollar organization, was like, "Can you make video for us?" I would say yes. But the wrestling that I like is I'm heavily involved in actual wrestling, like collegiate Olympic wrestling. I my kids have all wrestled. I was a wrestler. I was a really good high school wrestler and a really mediocre to bad college wrestler. And but I've invested heavily in the sport because I just think it teaches a lot of life lessons. And all of my kids have wrestled, not because of me, but because my wife makes them wrestle. She's hardcore. She's an elite jiu-jitsu player, and
she's so awesome in every way.
She believes like they have to rep. But anyway, my eldest was a very good wrestler, and he got hurt his junior year, right, like day one. So he didn't get as far as he wanted to go, but he was a good wrestler, and now he's a lieutenant in the infantry. And he talks about the impact it's had on him. And then my second oldest wrestled, but my daughter, who is currently a junior, is a straight assassin. And then right behind her, her little brother, who's 15, and then my 9-year-old are also straight assassins. And so she's got a shot at winning the state championship this year as a junior. But when I was a kid, women were absolutely harassed, and it was a bad situation, like a really bad situation, where you had to be basically the toughest woman on earth to be on the wrestling team, because chances are half your teammates didn't appreciate you, everybody else didn't appreciate. It was like a thing. So now, that is falling fast and furious because of, people like Sally Roberts, who's an Army veteran and a Legionnaire that runs Wrestle Like a Girl. She'd be a great guest if you guys haven't had her on. But so now women's wrestling is now approved in 48 out of 50 states. And those last two are going to fall in the next year or two. And so my daughter is like right at the cusp of like this whole change, because for the first 2 years of her career, she had to wrestle boys. That's who she wrestled. She had a winning record. She beat most of the people she wrestled, even though it was men against women. And this year she's wrestling girls, and she's just murdering everybody. But it's insanely unfair. You think about it, it's like insanely unfair that she had to have those 2 years. Meanwhile, we've got generations of women that had to kind of do the same. And so, so I am in the middle of producing a film about this very thing. So cool. That's my next big project.
I think that's reflective of so many other things, not just in the world of wrestling, but
that can't be true. Women have it easy in this world.
You're absolutely right. What the hell do they have to worry about?
Oh my goodness. Well, Stacy, do you have any parting words for Nick?
I just want to thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to all the things that I know are still stirring around in that brain, and to see what else is coming out of it.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
I can't wait to watch Office Joe. Can't wait to see the wrestling documentary you're going to make, and just all the stuff that you guys are putting together. Everybody, Hollywood, shout out over at Diesel Jack. I love it when cool, good people get together to make neat things, and it's just such a different feeling that it gives me inside, where you're just like, yeah, I want to be a part of that. I hope I'm lucky enough to get to do that, or get to even like hang around those kind of people, because as I think all of us know, the majority of people in the world are boring, and we don't want. They're just like, why I don't want to be around them. So I think it's awesome. You guys are super cool. I know you can go to, is it dieseljackmedia.com?
Yep.
Okay. It's
And you can go to officejoeshow.com to get updates on Office Joe.
heck yeah. All right. Go check it out. Nick, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Alphas, we'll be right back after the break.
The American Legion is raising awareness about PTSD and veteran suicide by offering hope, camaraderie, and support.
Be the one to help end veteran suicide.
Be the one to save one veteran.
Be the one to ask a veteran in your life how they're doing.
Be the one to reach out when a veteran is struggling.
Go to betheone.org and help the American Legion end veteran suicide.
Will you be the one?
All right, Alphas, welcome back. Now it's time for some scuttlebutt. Stacey, what do you got?
Well, this one's kind of interesting. As a woman, Ashley, I imagine that you find yourself down the ladies' aisle looking for the myriad of options that women have to get during those times of the month, when we experience those monthly things. But did you know that Kotex was created by a paper company, Kimberly-Clark, after they learned some Army nurses were using them for field dressings and feminine napkins. If you are a modern woman of the 1920s, you threw out those old fabric rags that you used to hand wash all the time that were really nasty and got yourself some newfangled Kotex. So I think that makes me think back about, being in the field and how we used feminine products in unique ways. There's a long list from field dressings to corking things, if you know what I'm saying. What's the craziest thing you've ever used a feminine hygiene product with, Ashley?
I can't say that I use any ingenuity with anything like that. My kid, as a lifeguard, used to carry them around for like nosebleeds and stuff. Whenever people would have nosebleeds, they'd shove them up people's noses. And then he was we did an exercise on base. He was pretty young. He's a teenager, but they did an exercise on base where they needed people to pretend to be wounded, and then the Air Force people would come up and they would like assess, or they would give him a card that says what had happened. And I remember he came home and he's just covered in all this fake blood. And he said, I said, what injury did you have? And he said, they said that they ripped my testicle off. I was like, what happened? What happened now? So yeah, the Army thinks that they're the only ones with jokes, but airmen have jokes.
That's quite traumatic. Like, that's even just in a training scenario, that is a traumatic injury.
Yeah, I was like, how did that happen? He's like, they didn't say. I just had to pretend.
Bicycle accident gone wrong, maybe.
Maybe. So they might have used a tampon for that. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know. Hey, I don't know if you've heard this. According to a story in the Military Times, the VA is facing a shortage of skilled experts from the tech industry, mostly due to a lack of interest in public service. The VA is trying to remedy the situation by drumming up interest in government jobs. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. The tech industry as a whole lacks a tradition of public service, which I personally think is distressing, said VA Chief Technology Officer Charles Worthington during a press event in January. This industry needs to grow up and build that culture. All right, Charles. Okay. They're working hard to create value propositions for recruits to convince them that the VA is a great place to work and to engage them in the sacred mission to deliver health care and benefits to the veterans who have committed their lives to defending America. What do you think, Stacey?
Well, I feel like this is a very good opportunity to maybe employ some veterans, or through the job, re-education program for the VA, offer veterans the opportunity to transition into the tech company. Why are they feeling like it's the other kids that are coming up that are failing to join in the tech or wanting to honor our veterans? Can't we look within our own community? I don't know, just a thought.
Sure. But I feel like the military community does that a lot, where they say, hey, let's go from within. But then it is good to expand with that. Like, that's what I like to do with my social media stuff, and bring in the people that support and show them like a different side, so that it expands the reach. We keep it growing. And probably the tech industry has a lack of interest in public service because They want, they're young, they're out of college, they want money, and technology doubles. It's like the law of Thomas or something like that. It doubles every 18 months. So it's completely changed. So it's being able to keep up with all that. So I would love to see more veterans in it. And I would also love to see non-veterans getting involved in the VA so that they can, the public knowledge grows about where the community needs help.
Well, that's interesting because, as I'm a veteran that's rated with a certain disability, and in my state, that gives my children the opportunity to get free education. So that leads me to another thought: is why not offer or extend sort of like incentives for children of veterans to go into tech if they commit to, say, 2 or 4 years to VA work after that. Just
Cool idea.
Mhm.
Yeah, like
anyway, food for thought, VA, get on it.
food for thought. Stacy says, "Get on it, VA."
Well, Ashley, now's the time that I need to say goodbye. And in the words of my Navy father, I'm going to wish you fair winds and following seas. I never understood that saying. So
Following the seas will always be behind me.
it's always follow you. I don't understand that saying, but I guess it's just a nice way of saying have a great journey. And for all you alphas who are wondering what the heck is going on, my co-host Ashley is setting sail for Japan. But she's not just embarking on an adventure out in Japan. She's embarking on a quest that will surely be filled with other new adventures. And that means that Ashley is going to be stepping off as the co-host of Tango Alpha Lima. But I assure you, she will be making her presence known every once in a while in the future. I guarantee you. Ashley, what's on the horizon for you? What are you going to be doing?
Oh, I have a lot of, thank you very much for your kind words. I have a lot of comedy touring coming up. I'll be in Japan for a month, and then I have a tour of Europe, and then sort of hopping all around the country. So it's not, I was going to miss a lot of episodes, so it's not really fair on the rest of the team. But I've really enjoyed my time hanging out with everybody. And if you'll let me come back and harass you every now and again, I would love to do it. But yeah, I have a lot of touring coming up. So just being able to, unless you guys want to record at 2 a.m. Japan time, which we can just do that instead, I guess. Super producer Holly's like, nope, I got to sleep. But I've really enjoyed getting to know everyone and in the American Legion family, and I want to support you in whatever way I can. So not able to do the podcasts, but I want to pop on whenever you'll let me.
Yeah. Ashley, if people want to catch your comedy act on while you're on tour, where can they find your schedule?
Well, you can go to ashleygutermuth.com or any of my social medias. At this point, I'll probably be beaming it into your living room at some point. I try to be on everywhere, putting up billboards in your town. But yeah, I'll be touring across the country and I guess we could say world at this point. But yeah, so go to my website, ashleygutermuth.com, or Instagram, Ash Gutermuth, Facebook, Ashley Gutermuth, LinkedIn. If you'd want to lose your job by looking at my stuff, I'm Ashley Gutermuth on there too.
Well, I'm going to miss you and look forward to having you pop in and give us some updates in the future.
Love to. Well, I guess this will be the last time I say it. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and our newsletter. And while you're at it, drop us your guest recommendations at legion.org/Tango Alpha Lima. Thank you guys so much for letting me be a part of your podcast for the last year. I've really enjoyed it, and I wish you all the best.